Hey, what's up guys, it's Bakes, and thank you for joining me for day number 14 for my 31 Days of Horror. Today's movie is one that I know a fair amount of people are a fan of this movie. To be completely honest, it's never been a favourite of mine. I've never really completely enjoyed this movie, but it has been a little while. So when I was looking through my shelf at things to watch for day number 14, I saw it sitting there and I went, you know what, it has been a while, maybe give it a rewatch, see if my opinion on it has changed. But either way, today's movie is from 2006, and it is titled Silent Hill. So the plot for this movie, there's this mother and her adoptive daughter. The daughter is sleepwalking, and she keeps having these reoccurring nightmares where she's screaming, Silent Hill, Silent Hill. Because the daughter is adopted, the mum is starting to think, okay, maybe it's something from her past. So she tracks down Silent Hill, which is essentially this ghost town, and the two go off to Silent Hill. After an accident, she wakes up and the daughter is gone, and now the mum and a few other people along the way have to venture through this ghost town with all these creepy creatures and weird shit going on. So that's essentially the plot for this movie, and let's get into my thoughts of 2006's Silent Hill. So as I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of this movie, but a lot of time had passed since I last checked it out. I was like, you know what, worth a rewatch, my opinion might have changed, but to be completely honest, it hasn't. If anything, this was probably the least enjoyment I've ever got watching this movie. I really didn't like it upon rewatch. First of all, if you're unaware, this is based off a video game series. Maybe the people who really like this movie are fans of the video games. I've never played them, so maybe it's something like that there's a disconnect to. But also, if I had no knowledge of this being based off a video game and I was watching it for the first time without any clue of its history, I would be able to tell that this is an adaptation of a video game, or maybe even a comic book or graphic novel. It just sort of has that feel. Video game would be my number one choice because it kind of is like you're watching gameplay or watching someone go through levels. Scenes in this movie where she's like creeping through the maze of demonic nurses or taking on Pyramid Head or whatever the other creatures are. It feels like levels or gameplay that I'm watching on YouTube or something. It feels very much like that. It also is just a product of its time. It feels very mid-2000s. As I said, it was released in 2006. You can just tell the look and the feel of this movie. As much as horror wasn't the best in the 2000s or anything, you know, it wasn't peaking or anything, it does have a very distinctive feel, and this movie does have that feel also. Now, what I will admit, this movie does have a great setting, obviously being Silent Hill. The location is actually pretty awesome and pretty interesting as well. The atmosphere is pretty solid. Yeah, I just really like the setting of Silent Hill, but I feel like it's wasted because, honestly, I feel like this movie is quite boring, and with a pretty interesting location, a lot of uninteresting things just sort of come up. To me, it just feels like a lot of running around, you know, characters are running from one location to another, and they have a run-in with a creature, and then they run from another location to another, and a run-in with a creature. As I said, it feels like a video game. It feels like one of those free world, like GTA or something, and then whenever they bump into a monster, it's like, oh, complete this mission. I don't know, it just feels very tiresome when it just does it over and over. It honestly feels like 75% of this movie with a 2-hour runtime is just characters running around and running around. And a lot of people will say the best part of this movie is the creatures and the monsters and everything. And that's honestly something I was thinking back on before watching this movie, going, yeah, at least the monsters and the creatures are actually pretty cool. They really just didn't hold up this time at all, really. Obviously, you can tell a lot of it is practical, but then there's CGI mixed in there as well. Mid-2000s CGI, it's either done really well or really bad. You know, you had like the Transformers movies coming around at this time. Good CGI. There's moments in this movie where it's pretty weak, and it just sort of takes you out of it. The monsters, honestly, were a big letdown rewatching the film this time around. Rewatching Silent Hill this time around, the only part that I felt still held up was the climax. That was one thing that I remembered being pretty strong from previous times watching this movie, and rewatching it this time, I was thinking to myself, thank fuck something actually holds up, because the climax to this movie is admittedly really cool. I actually really like the climax, but it's kind of, the damage is already done by that point, because to get to the cool climax, you got to sit through an hour and a half of what I think is really boring stuff. You know, it's watching someone do video game side missions until something really cool happens, and yeah, it's just annoying that you have to get through all of that to get to something that I feel like is pretty rewarding. The daughter's acting. The daughter isn't in this movie a lot, but I find it maybe not even her acting. It's more so the dialogue. Her dialogue is like really cringy. Now that I think of it, a lot of the characters' dialogues in this movie is like really cringy. I'm not sure if it's pulled directly from the game, and it's just staying really close to the source material. I'm not really sure, but I just feel like the dialogue is, yeah, it doesn't hit, and a lot of the times I was like, ugh, very weird. But I'm gonna sort of leave it there. As you can tell, I'm not a big fan of this movie. I wasn't joking. My rating out of 10, a lot of people are obviously going to be thinking I'm going to rate it low, and I am, but they're probably thinking this is a little bit dramatic, but I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10. Like, the highest I've probably ever rated this movie in the past is like a 4.5. I've never been a fan of it. I was hoping, at least like take it up a 0.5 to a 5 out of 10, but it just went down. This movie was such a drag. As I said, just an hour and 30 minutes of just stuff that I don't really find interesting, entertaining. To me, the worst thing a movie can be, I've said this so many times on my channel, is boring. Even if a movie's bad, it doesn't mean that it's not entertaining. I don't find this movie to be really entertaining at all. I just get bored, I get tired, and then, yeah, as I said, I kind of wait for the hopeful ending. And as I said, watching it this time around, I was so grateful that the ending still hit. But I'm going to leave that review there, guys. I know a lot of people are probably going to be disagreeing with me because I know a lot of people do like this movie. And even if they're going to admit it's not a great movie, it's something that a lot of people I know think back on pretty fondly. Like, I knew a lot of people that I went to school with, I was like, oh, I'm not a big fan of this movie, and they're like, oh, but I love the games, and I watched this movie lots when I was younger, and, it's got that soft spot for a lot of people, and a lot of people are big fans of the creatures, because of the video game lore. A lot of people love Pyramid Head and the nurses, and, that bendy guy with the barbed wire around him. He's actually really cool. The design is pretty awesome, but yeah, for me, it just doesn't hit. But feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, opinions are opinions. Like, if you like the movie, that's fine. Like, I'm not trying to call out people who like this movie, but it's just not my thing. So, thank you for joining me for day number 14 of my 31 Days of Horror. Tomorrow is day number 15. You guys know Halloween Kills. I announced that I was going to do Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills on the 15th, and then I'll finish off the month with Halloween Ends. So, day number 15 tomorrow. I know what movie I'm doing. I'm so excited that I'm hitting the halfway mark, and thank you for joining me for another one of my 31 Days of Horror. And yeah, see you fuckers tomorrow. Let's go.